I want to read you a book about one of my favorite people. Her name is Jane Goodall, and this book is called Me, Jane by Patrick McDonnell. First, I'll read you a little bit about Jane Goodall so you know who she is and why this story is so beautiful. When Jane Goodall was 10 years old, she decided that when she grew up, she would go to Africa and live with the animals and write about them. Almost everyone told her this goal was impossible. Her family had very little money, and she was a girl in a time when girls were not encouraged to pursue adventurous careers. But her mother did encourage her to follow her dream. And when Jane finished school, she continued her learning about Africa and worked hard to save enough money to go there. And finally, in 1957, she met a famed anthropologist, Louis Leakey, and began studying chimpanzees at the Gombe Stream Game Reserve in Tanzania. And this is a story about her childhood. Me, Jane by Patrick McDonnell. Jane had a stuffed toy chimpanzee named Jubilee. She cherished Jubilee and took him everywhere she went, and Jane loved to be outside. She watched birds making their nests, spiders spinning their webs, and squirrels chasing one another up and down trees. Jane learned all that she could about the animals and plants she studied in her backyard and read about in books. One day, curious, Jane wondered where eggs came from. So she and Jubilee snuck into Grandma Nut's chicken coop, hid behind some straw, stayed very still, and observed the miracle. It was a magical world, full of joy and wonder, and Jane felt very much a part of it. Jane often climbed her favorite tree, which she named Beech. She would lay her cheek against its trunk and seem to feel the sap flowing beneath the bark. Jane could feel her own heart beating, beating, beating. With the wind in her hair, she read and reread the books about Tarzan of the Apes, in which another girl, also named Jane, lived in the jungles of Africa. Jane dreamed of a life in Africa too. a life living with and helping all animals. At night, Jane would tuck Jubilee into bed, say her prayers, and fall asleep. To wake one day to her dream come true. And that is how dreams really do come true. And that's the story of Jane Goodall's journey to work with all the animals in Africa, but also around the world. And she loves to encourage children to learn about as many animals and plants and wildlife as they can, and to also look after the earth they live in.